Alright, Shalom Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. I ain't trying to flood the little channel with a whole bunch of videos, but I'm all caught up on my little work, and I'm always reading the Tanakh, reading our history and studying day in and day out. Man, it's just something that I do. You know, I didn't accept it. This is part of my life. Alright, how about I was thinking, Hebrews, what did the Creator require of us Israelites that was so hard that we couldn't do? If you look at the Tanakh history and you look at the laws that the Creator gave us, they were just in righteousness and compared to the way that the Canaanites function. You know, the Amorite culture. You know we living in the Amorite culture now as Israelites, and we understand that, and that's understood. But what did the Creator require of us that was so hard that we couldn't do? Little simple stuff, man. What is wrong with us as a people, man? And we kind of like messed up mentally now as a people in, the same way that we was when we was on the land or coming into our heritage, leaving Egypt. And man, I'm just thinking, I'm always thinking, why is it this way, or what happened, and what can we do as Israelites to bring about a better awareness of us as a people. And my mind just always rolling. But this is what, after reading the Tanakh history and constantly going over it and over it and over it, man, what did the Creator require of us that was so hard that we couldn't do? Now it's like now we in captivity, and everybody want to try to think about keeping the covenant, or as you wake up and we want to do right, we want to do the laws that our ancestors abandoned. And then you kind of look at a segment of us, and man, it's just wow. What did the Creator require of us that was so hard that we couldn't get it together as a people? Just like now, how we just can't get it together, and there's so much confusion in the Israelite community. What was so hard that the Creator required of us that we couldn't do? Because if you look at the laws, man, it was simple stuff, simple stuff. And it's like, don't worship no other people gods, the stranger gods, and don't worship all these gods and stuff, and be hooked up to all these cultures and peoples. It's like when the Creator set everything up, and then he dispersed the people at Babel, and then everybody went to their own different directions, and then them people kind of like developed their own culture and so forth, but how everything was to stay with Shem's descendants and so forth, and how that the law would come from us Israelites. And man, it's just crazy how our forefathers, Abraham being an example of how he didn't worship no other gods, and then he was in the middle of Mesopotamia, what I'm saying, where all the fake gods and all that old stuff was. He was in Mesopotamia, and the heart of the wickedness, what I'm saying, at the time when he was around. And then he went to Canaan, he ain't worshiped none of their gods. And then he went to Egypt, he ain't worshiped none of their gods and so forth, as well as his son Isaac, as well as Prophet Isaac's son Jacob, how he didn't worship none of the gods and so forth. And they was prime examples of how to be. And they didn't even have the law that we Israelites had, and they followed the Creator. And man, what did the Creator require of us Israelites after we got the covenant that was so hard that we couldn't do? Because if you go over some of the laws, You know what I'm saying? If you go over some of the laws, that's like Prophet Joseph. Prophet Joseph was in Egypt, in the heart of the beast, in the heart of wickedness, in idol worshippers. Yet he didn't worship none of their gods, and he didn't worship the Egyptian gods, and you know, he stayed strong. And man, we got ancestors that had strength unbelievably, and faced with whole cultures up against them, whole nations, you know what I'm saying, up against them. And how back in the days, man, you could have probably lost your life real easy, you know, but how that they stood up and resisted the idol worship and the fake gods and so forth, and how that they was just and righteous, you know. And then they didn't even have the law that, you know, the Creator gave us. But you know, man, I want to look at some of these laws that the Creator gave us, man. And man, it's a trip how we couldn't do these laws, you know, and how that when we got into the promised land, and how we start worshiping the Egyptian religion. You know, I already explained how Egypt had to do trade on the other side, you know, of the promised land, you know, with they relatives and friends in the Mesopotamian area, and how that we Israelites having the covenant right there was blocking them. And that's what the Creator plan was, to block off the evil and wickedness, and to make a weak link in their chain of wickedness, where it would have broke them apart. And we Israelites' job was to do that, and was to hold it down in righteousness. Our forefathers did it. That's what made Almighty Yah choose us, because our forefathers did it. Abraham, in the middle of wickedness, he all in Mesopotamia, you know, in Babylon and all them places, in Ur and so forth, and how he didn't, you know, get caught up. You know, he was even, you know, in Chaldea, and I could show that Chaldea was wicked and turned wicked and so forth, and how that the Assyrians are the founders of Chaldea, but how he didn't succumb to none of that wickedness, and how he got up and left and went to Canaan, and he didn't succumb to none of the Amorite culture and wickedness. Now we know that the Amorites are some real powerful people with their government and they control, and how that they, you know, do things and set things up, because we're up under Amorite culture now. But how Prophet Abraham didn't follow the Amorite culture, and how he resisted that, and then how he went on into Egypt. You know, he went on into Egypt, you know, and stayed there. And then we know how Pharaoh snatched our mama up, Sarah, and then, you know, how the Creator showed his presence by plaguing the Pharaoh and so forth. But and then them folks knew that they was, you know, Hebrews and so forth, and that Prophet Abraham did not worship the Egyptian gods. Now that's powerful, when you can go into the heart of the Egyptian system and then not believe in their gods. Man, I bet you it was impossible to survive back then, not, you know, believing in their gods in some kind of way. And how Prophet Abraham didn't believe in it, and how he went to Canaan, back to Canaan, and then he had a son, Prophet Isaac, and Prophet Isaac didn't believe in none of the Canaanite gods, and he was surrounded by the, you know, the Canaanites. And then how he went to you know, all around in this inheritance where the Canaanites was, and man, he didn't, you know, it didn't fade him none at all. He wasn't thinking about their gods. And then how he had a son, Jacob, who we are descended from, us Israelites, and how he didn't worship none of the Canaanite gods or the Egyptian gods, and how he went down in Egypt and stayed there with his son Yosef, Joseph, and how he stayed there, and he didn't worship none of the Canaanite gods. And we Israelites didn't worship the Canaanite gods or the Egyptian gods when our father Jacob was around. And then how we stayed strong, so that let the Creator know, man, he got some people that he can rely on, that you know, truthful and righteous, and that he can use us to destroy the Canaanite culture and so forth. And as you know, if we would have destroyed that culture, as I explained in other videos, how it wouldn't be no wickedness today. It wouldn't be none of that wickedness today, and how the wickedness of today come from the Canaanite culture, because when we Israelites abandon our heritage to the Amorites, the Sepharvims, who are the founders of Western civilization, what they call Western civilization, they the founders of it, and how we are in a Canaanite, culture right now. But how that, our father Jacob resisted the Canaanite culture, and how we Israelites resisted the Egyptian culture. But how when our father passed away, Israel, and then how that, we Israelites, went into bondage, in the Egypt, and then upon our Exodus, how we made a covenant with the Creator to be just like our forefathers, just like our father Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, and then how the Creator fulfilled His promise by getting us, the land, started to take over the land, and how He gave us some laws, some simple laws. Man, if you look at the laws that He gave us, man, they was real simple. All we had to do is not rob each other, and not kill each other, and not steal from each other, and not tax each other, because the Canaanite culture, how they, with contracts and own and stuff, and you can see how the contracts and, and stuff like that was shown when our fathers come into the land and bought the land from the Amorites and so forth for burial places and so forth, and they made contracts and all that old stuff. Well, how did the Creator, He didn't like the system that the Amorites had, because the Amorite system was unjust, and it creates suffering, and it has a minority and the people that suffer, and it's like the wealthy is like some parasites, and how they just leech off the poor, and there's no justice, and people suffer, and it's the originator of sin, like robbing and stealing and killing. When you create the tax system and the economic capitalist system that exists today, man, it create the homeless, suffering, diseases, and everything. And how the Creator gave us a different culture that would have, wiped that culture out if we would have had let it, grow and got it started. And how we Israelites, couldn't follow simple instructions, simple instructions. Don't rob each other. Don't steal. Don't sleep with your wife's daughter, and don't sleep with the neighbor's wife, and all kind of little simple moral issue things, And then how about today in this Amorite culture that they got us Israelites singing about that old evil wickedness? We actually sing the Amorite wicked culture in songs today, and accept that as righteous culture. Man, it's terrible. And it wouldn't have been like that if we would have just did the simple things that the Creator required, of us Israelites. Man, it's like this. If you go to Deuteronomy chapter 7, let's see this. Let me get this straight. Chapter 7, that's chapter 7, verse 4, I think. Seems like I'll be having all this stuff sorted out before I even get to doing this. But all right, let's see. That's chapter 7, verse 6. And it says, "For thou art an holy people unto the Elohim thy Yah. The Elohim thy Yah hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all the people that are upon the face of the earth. Now above all the people that are upon the face of the earth, because he created, he the creator of all the nationalities and all the different stocks and ethnic groups that we see today. The creator is responsible for that. And out of all of the creation, he chose us Israelites to be a people, what I'm saying, to himself. For thou art an holy people unto the Elohim thy Yah. The Elohim thy Yah hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Now, why would the Creator say that? Because he seen in our father, prophet Abraham, how he can resist the Canaanite culture. And plus, we know that going all the way back to after Abel was killed, and that how did nobody call on the Creator to Seth. Enos was born, and so then from then on down, the Creator kind of like had a favoritism toward Seth line and so forth, and how also Shem descendants would keep a strong anti-idol worship and an anti-God stance and be strong. So the Creator, kind of know what he was dealing with as he do now, and how it's not over with for us Israelites, and how we still in the game, and how we still the main important factor, because it's about keeping us blind and ignorant to what's going on, and which keep us in ignorant and wickedness, and then our enemies continue to, to rule. But look, for thou art an holy people unto me, the Elohim thy Yah hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all the people that are upon the face of the earth. The Elohim did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all. But because the Elohim loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, had the Elohim brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now, know therefore that the Elohim thy Yah, he is Yah, the faithful Yah, which keepeth covenant and mercy with them that love him, and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations, and repayeth them that hate him to their face, to destroy them. As we Israelites understood that is true, because we know, as I explained in plenty videos, how we Israelites was tricked out the covenant, and then how that we was driven into Africa, and how we are here now today. And what we going through as a people. What we going through as a people. So we know that the Creator repayeth them that hate him to their face. And we would be hating the Creator when we said that we was going into Egypt to worship their religion. Look, thou shalt therefore keep the commandment and the statutes, the judgments which I command thee this day to do them. Wherefore it shall come to pass, if ye hearken to these judgments and keep and do them, that the Elohim thy Yah shall keep unto thee the covenant and the mercy which he sware unto thy fathers. And then if we up under the Creator's mercy, man, the Amorite culture can't do nothing to us. We are invincible, and everybody will be drawn to that, and that would create a utopia on earth. And the enemies of Yah don't want that. Look, and he will love thee and bless thee and multiply thee. He will also bless the fruit of thy womb, and the fruit of thy land, thy corn and thy wine, thee and all the increase of thy kin, thy flocks, thy sheep, and the land which he swore unto thy fathers to give thee. Thou shalt be blessed above all people. There shall not be male nor female barren among you, or among your cattle, and the Elohim will take away from thee all the sickness, and will put none of the evil diseases of Egypt, which thou knowest, but upon thee, but will lay them upon all them that hate thee, and thou shalt consume all the people which the Elohim thy Yah shall deliver thee. Then I shall have no pity upon them, neither shalt thou serve their gods, for that will be a snare unto thee. Now, sure enough, I just finished corresponding with, one of my favorite persons on YouTube, and Velvet Simmons, and man, they was just saying how the Creator wanted us to destroy them Canaanites back in the days, and how it was important to do so. And sure enough, because if we would have destroyed the Canaanites back then, that none of this wickedness would be going on today, and how we was to test of faith being in the middle of all that wickedness, and how, man, it just gobbled us up. But look, if thou shalt in thee in heart, let me see, if thou shalt say in thee in heart, these nations are more than I. All right, so Prophet Moses was going into the land. But look, the Creator didn't require hardly nothing from us. He didn't require hardly nothing from us. Man, all we had to do was just, some simple things. Look, behold, this is Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 5. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as the Elohim my Yah command me, that ye should do so in the land whether ye go to possess it. Keep therefore to do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. That's because we wouldn't have the contracts, we wouldn't have that tax system. Man, you can't rob, you can't steal, you can't be sleeping with everybody, there ain't no prostitutes, everybody go, people want to live righteousness. It wasn't no righteousness on the earth until, Shem descendants, supposed to had, been carrying that light and bringing it, truth to the world and stuff. And man, you see how the Amorite culture is today. Man, it's terrible, and them people, all the other nations that the Amorites rule and have dominance over, they would have been drawn to us, because they would have, it would have been the opposite of what they doing. That's like now, it's no opposite of what the wicked Amorite culture offer, and that everywhere you go is idol worship in all nations and so forth. And that if we Israelites would have followed the law, we would have been that opposite. We would have been that opposite as we're going to be. And all nations will be drawn to us, as the Creator has said from before. Because when we get into the promised land and we start, doing this new covenant where you can't rob and you can't steal and you can't sing about nothing wickedness. You can't sing about the sister body parts. You can't sing about homosexual activity. You're not going to be able to sing about none of that evil wickedness when we get in the promised land and start doing our law. And then how that's going to bring all the nations. Everybody going to want to be, because this Canaanite culture is a burden on everybody back, and people gonna want to be free of that. Look, keep therefore to and do them, for this is the wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding nation. Now, how about that? All we had to do, if you go look at Leviticus, with really Exodus and Leviticus, and you start reading, the little laws that the Creator gave us, they was just. And man, you couldn't do no robbing and killing and survive in the culture that we had. You couldn't be no thief. You couldn't be no crook. You couldn't sell no dope. You couldn't sell no dope in the culture that we had set up. That was a death sentence right there, to be caught doing wrong like that, especially on a continuous basis. Oh man, it's lights out for you. So, you know, our enemies, man, they ain't never wanted a righteous culture to exist, you know, because Cain descendants, man, they prospered in wickedness. You know, that it's like, you know, when Cain killed Abel, and you know, it wasn't nobody around. To Adam had some more sons. Man, Cain had everything to himself, prospered, and you know, so but it prospered in wickedness. You see what I'm saying? So that's what the Creator didn't want. And if you look at Exodus, man, the laws that the Creator gave us, man, was simple, real simple. All we had to do was leave the other folks' gods alone. Other folks' gods alone. Don't eat no unclean animals like shrimp, lobsters, and crabs, and all them scavengers. And that's why come the water system messed up right now today, is because they eat the animals, the creatures in the water that would cleanse the water of the dead animals in the waste. Now all the water is polluted because they eat the animals that get rid of the waste in the water, and then they call it a delicacy. Like a shrimp ain't nothing but a river, a roach, a water roach is all the shrimp is, and crabs and lobsters and all that old stuff. You know what I mean? It really turns my stomach upside down. But how in this Amorite culture, that wickedness and evilness is promoted as something good. You know, man, it's a whole lot of stuff that's wrong today, that if we Israelites, you know, would have got the culture and held on to it, then none of this stuff wouldn't be known today and wouldn't be accepted as normal and so forth. You know, it's like all this wickedness accepted as normal, and worshiping all these gods, and all this stuff is accepted as normal when it's really not. It's because we are dominated by the Canaanite culture, you know, the Canaanite Amorite culture. But you know, man, I had some scriptures, and I'm gonna find some of these verses that the Creator, you know, man, the little stuff that He wanted us to do, man, was real simple, real simple. And then if we would have, you know, just did these little simple laws, that that the whole earth would be a paradise right now. You know, it's like, you know, the robbing, the killing, and the stealing, and you know, a lot of these things, you know, the Creator, you know, would have put your lights out. You know, that would have been the end of you. You know, and so, you know, what did the Creator, you know, require men of us? You know, He didn't require that much, man. All He just wanted, man, for us, man, to just to have justice. That's like in, you know, Tanakh history. If you look at some of the laws and the statutes, man, one of the statutes is, you know, that's like, say for instance, if you accidentally killed the person, you know, you got an axe, and the axe head flew off and hit somebody in the head and killed them, and then how you can run to another city for refuge and the people couldn't do nothing to you. You know, man, it's a whole lot of stuff, you know, that we had going on, that if we would have followed that culture, man, that how, you know, life wouldn't be as we know it, you know, today. You know, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. You know, like I say, I'm not trying to flood the site, you know, with all these videos, but I was just thinking, man, what did Almighty Yah require of us that was so hard that we couldn't do back then? And I'm going to tell you what it is, like it is today. It's that Canaanite culture, that partying and that kicking it, and then most of all, we want to be friends with everybody. And then the Creator told us that if we go into the land and be friends with the people, haven't you noticed that it's a segment of our enemies ain't trying to be friends with us? None whatsoever. None whatsoever. They ain't trying to be friends with us under no circumstances. It's some people, here in the Americas, that's been over us for a long time, and how them folks ain't trying to be friends with us, and because they know, some of them, man, they know that they wickedness and they power will perish if they become friends with us, and that how that they'll have to do right, and then how that they won't have the power that they have now today. A lot of people power come from unrighteousness and so forth, and how that wouldn't be happening. But the Creator, man, He didn't require hardly nothing of us, man. If you look at the scriptures, the eye for an eye, you know what I'm saying, and how we couldn't, man, extort nobody, and how we couldn't waste, and how we had to be, righteousness, and how we had to, to be honest, and how we couldn't, because you got more money than me, that I'm gonna have to side and take judgment with you over this other person, man, that the Creator, that's like now today, you can buy justice. If you got some money, and then you go to the so-called court system, the Amorite court system, all it takes is some money to, kind of like help you through, and man, the Creator didn't, want that, because it'll be people at the bottom that suffer and so forth, So, man, what did the Creator require of us that was so hard that we couldn't do? Man, if you look at these scriptures and read through, man, the laws that we was given, man, it was simple. All we had to do was just don't rob each other, don't steal and kill. And we can kind of like be that way now, and it's prophesied that we're going to come into a state of being like that, where we're not going to be robbing and killing and stealing from each other, and where that old desire to hear wicked music is going to fade away, and all that's going to disappear, and that's going to hurt our enemies. Our enemies going to cry and whine when we start to turn towards righteousness, and when we start to come in to our heritage and start to be the Israelites that we supposed to be. Yeah, our enemies gonna cry. They ain't gonna like that, you know what I'm saying? And it's like this. And this was said when the covenant was broken, and when we Israelites had abandoned our heritage to the Egyptian, for some Egyptian religion. That's like I got plenty of videos explaining this. Man, all praise be Almighty. Y'all turn right to it. Look. And this is Jeremiah 31:31. Behold, the days come, said the Elohim, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, said the Elohim. I will put my law in their inward parts and write them in their hearts. You see, so we're going to be some just people. We're going to be some justice people. We're going to be some people that stands for justice. That's why come them old fake judges in the court system be wearing black, because they know that, the real people going to stand up, you know what I'm saying, and represent justice one day. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, Know the Elohim, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, said the Elohim. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. So, when it come about, man, our enemies is in the process of hating that now. For the simple reason is that we Israelites are coming into our heritage, and how we are shunning away from the evil and wickedness that this society promote, because all the wickedness that's promoted today leads to a homosexual connection. All the evil and wickedness, if you're robbing and stealing and killing they guiding you to the ultimate wickedness that the Creator come destroy whole civilizations over. You know, like Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed. It is if you start, going down that trail, and that's where the Amorite culture would take you. That's like I believe, because it's a heavenly host, and we know that, that the Creator, as recorded in his history, the Tanakh, it showed how, the Creator was with some angelic beings. So we know that it's something in the heavens, as we have Prophet Ezekiel testimony about the craft coming down with the Creator in it, and so forth. So we know that the Creator, them come from the heaven, and it's a heavenly host. And I understand that this is our learning school as Israelites, and that once we come into the knowledge to reject evil and wickedness like our forefathers did, Abraham, Isaac, and then they was just only individuals, but now you got a nation of peoples, millions of peoples that's rejecting the Canaanite culture, the robbing, stealing, and killing, and that how that we, is a representative on earth, and then how that's supposed to be radiated throughout the galaxy and so forth, and that how we on a time clock to stop this evil and wickedness, because it's starting to take off into space now. And then we know that the Amorite culture, that if it's evil and wicked here on earth, and the people who's going up in space is evil and wicked and tied into this evil culture, is that they gonna seed the heavens with wickedness, and that's not what the Creator want. So we got to wake up, and we got to reject the idol worship, the no gods, and we got to have respect for each other, and love each other, and love our parents, and do justice and worship Yah alone. We gonna have to do that, and we gonna do that. Let me see what Prophet Ezekiel say. It's like this. How about it's a whole lot of other prophet books that I know their history like the back of my hand, and I'm gonna start doing them books, but it's gonna take us back in the BC days before we broke covenant, and I'm gonna start showing the state of mind that we was in then. I'm gonna start showing the state of mind that we Israelites was in. Okay, let's see. All right, how about let's Hebrews. Let's see. And I think that's Isaiah. I don't know where it's at. I don't know why come I get to doing the video, and alright, that'll be Isaiah 14. This is what we waiting on, Israelites. This is what we waiting on. This is what we waiting on, and it's supposed to put an end to the wickedness right here. Isaiah 14. For the Elohim will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, meaning that something had to happen to them, and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the in the land of the Elohim for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives who captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. Now, we're going to have to rule over our oppressors with righteousness, because we ain't going to be able to, rule over our oppressors with no wickedness. So our oppressors going to have to bow down, because, everybody going to recognize that, righteousness is around, and that, evilness got to be put aside now, because, we're trying to save the whole earth. Look, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Elohim shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve, that thou shalt take up this parable against the king of Babylon, and say, and that ain't nothing but an Amorite culture. Whenever it say Babylon, it's speaking of an Amorite culture. How are thy oppressors ceased, the golden city ceased? The Elohim had taken broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people with wrath, with a continuous stroke. And a continuous stroke is how we Israelites in this captivity are the only people on the face of this earth that's being systematically being destroyed for hundreds of years like this. Took us to another land, beat up, brainwashed, and forced into evil and wickedness, and how it's just been continuous. And we the only people on the face of the earth like this. All right. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger and persecuted, and none hindered. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yeah, the fir trees rejoice at, and the cedar of Lebanon say, since thou art laid down, no filler is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirred up the dead for thee. Even all the chief ones of the earth, it hath risen up from their thrones, all the kings of the nations. And we know they done went in all the little places and done dug all the little kings up from back in the days. Look, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vows. The worm is spread over thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of Yah. See, they want to get that wickedness up into the heavens. You know, if they control the wicked culture here on earth, and then they able to get up in the heavens, then they gonna, spread their evil wickedness. And that's why come the Creator gave us a culture that would have made the people abandon the evil wicked culture, and man, earth would have been righteousness. Look, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake the kingdom, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the earth, even all of them, lay in their glory, and one in his own house. But as it go on, we got to be redeemed, and we only gonna be redeemed is when we start doing the things that Almighty Yah required of us. And he ain't require nothing of us. If you look at the whole Tanakh history and you sum it up, is that you ain't supposed to worship no gods, no robbing, no stealing, no killing, no homosexual acts. That's simple. And then don't eat the unclean foods that he told you not to eat. That's simple. We couldn't even follow simple instructions, but we're gonna have to now, because our life gonna depend on it. Our life finna start depend on being righteousness, because the Amorite culture, this wickedness, gonna gobble you up and you gonna vanish. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. This is just a little thought that I had, that, man, why come we can't, do the little simple things that the Creator required of us? And if you look at Tanakh history, man, it was simple. All we had to do was just don't rob, don't steal, and don't kill. And we know what's right from inside of us. Ain't nobody born with an evil, wicked mind that you instinctively know what's right when you reach a certain age and stuff. All right, Hebrews, this is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.